Okay, we're calling
Okay,
him.
so we are doing a session here with Botez. Hello.
Hi,
Hey,
Danya. How are
Alex.
you doing?
I am doing great. I'm just enabling. I just fired up my stream. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you great.
Fantastic. So what I'm going
How's
to
your
do,
LA adventure going so far?
pretty good. Just chilling with family, which is always fun. Obviously, traveling, given my like commentary job, is always a challenge, and West Coast hours commentating, I feel like rules out any West Coast move for my like future career
I know, because you
because
just have to wake up so early. It's not worth it.
it's total. Yeah, it's crazy. It's a 6 hour call time today, so I
Oh my
appreciate you
God.
finding time,
Thank
but
you
I'm
for
really
making
excited.
time. Me
Oh no,
too.
this is
Me too. And also, I'm so glad your mom doesn't dislike me anymore. I think I told my chat, Danya and I went to the same university and we were studying for an exam together. And when he went to the bathroom, he left his friend on Facebook, and I thought it would be fun to post a troll status because that's what, crazy college kids do back then. But the crazy status I decided to post was that he was quitting chess. Obviously joking, but some people took it seriously, and his mom was not too
so.
happy about it.
My side is that you posted it, we laughed about it, and I kind of forgot to delete it. I think that night I thought it was funny. And in fact, I didn't delete it on purpose because I thought it was funny. So I wake up at whatever hour I would wake up in college, noon, and I check my phone, and there's 10 missed calls from my parents. And of course, you think it's a God forbid, it's an emergency. So I run out of bed, call, what's going on? We checked your Facebook, what's happening? I'm like, what's happening? I'm like half asleep. I'm happy nobody died, And it turns out my parents took that seriously. My chess coach at the time took it seriously, and he had like thrown a fit, and it was just like insane. And I feel bad, Alex, that like my parents got mad at you. Ultimately, it was my call, and I
No, no,
still think it's
no, no, no.
hilarious. So you are forgiven
Oh,
permanently by my mom, that's for sure.
okay. Okay, that's good. That's good. I don't want any bad blood between me and Mama Naroditsky.
No, she's
Um,
looked past.
and while you set it up, I'll let chat know a little bit. So this actually started a few years ago, probably back in 2019, where we wanted to do this video series that shows the difference between someone who's around master level, myself, and a grandmaster, Danya. And of course, now actually a lot of people are doing these series on YouTube, but we did it for chess.com a few years ago and we've been planning to do it, and now we're finally able to get together. So what we are going to be doing today is looking at positions, and then we'll give you my interpretation of it, and then we'll give you Danya's interpretation of it so that you can kind of see the difference in level, and hopefully it should be educational so that you see what kinds of things that you miss.
That's a great description. I think this type of content is in general, I think chess content originality kind of moves slowly where someone discovers a format and then everybody does it for like years, like going over a game, for example. But there's a bunch of
Yeah.
different types of content that are kind of underutilized. And one of them is just like discussing positions. Not everything has to be, like a super closed ended, neatly organized process, because that's not how like chess thinking actually works. And you want to emulate the realistic situation that you face during the game. So I'm super excited about this. I think that if this becomes a successful series, we can basically do this with different types of positions. So
Yep.
some of the positions that I had prepared and are on my desktop computer back home are more open-ended and positional in nature today. If you're fine with that, I'm thinking we can start with more tactical situations that do have like a clear solution. And then if it goes well, we can sort of move from there to more open-ended positions that are more sort of discussion based. So for today, I'm thinking that we can kind of solve a couple of positions together. I have not solved any of them, so these will be new to me as well. But I'm pretty excited about them. How does that sound in general?
That sounds good. I think one thing we should figure out is, do we want to be solving them independently so that you can compare the process, or do you want me to solve it first, since I will obviously miss things that you would have seen?
So as I see it, there's also the choice of like in the future, I can also select positions whose solution I know and just sort of monitor
Hmm.
your thought process. But I think it is more interesting if I haven't seen the positions before, because that way,
I
like I will
agree.
also be making mistakes. So there's almost a meta hierarchy where like maybe I'll correct some of your mistakes, you'll correct some of mine. So I think we should probably solve it. Maybe there should be like a period of like a minute or so where we just think,
Hmm.
and then we
Hmm.
come together, and you can just sort of start by describing your thinking process, and I'll be sort of adding in some of my thoughts and correcting you as I go along. How does
Okay,
that
sounds
sound?
good.
And we can
Sounds
always
good.
change it. I think chat should
Yeah, I don't
understand that
know
this
if a
is a work
minute
in
is gonna be.
progress.
I don't know if a minute is gonna be enough for me, but I'm down to try it.
So I sent you an invite, by the way, on chess.com. You should get a
We're.
classroom invite.
Uh, hang on, let me see it. Oh yeah, I got it.
Perfect. Let me give you all the rights and privileges. Give full control. You
Hell
can now
yeah.
probably kick me out if I misbehave.
Look.
Awesome.
Yay.
Can you see my arrows?
I
That's the
can. I
one.
can. Did you see? I wrote hi. You didn't
Oof.
even respond.
Sorry.
That's
And I
okay.
just deleted it. You see, I'm already misbehaving. Already displaying my toxic nature. I also wanted to say, Alex, that
I'm gonna
chat should.
disabuse you of that notion.
Oh, I remember that word. I think I used it during commentary.
Every time we used to do commentary together, I would learn some new words from Danya. And the most tilting thing about Danya is when we took the same class, we were taking a history class, but you did major in history. So
I did.
and this man would study less than me and still get higher grades.
I'm pretty sure just maybe in one humanities class, your sample size is pretty small.
Oh, it's okay.
But
It's okay.
we'll have to talk about that later.
Yeah, sorry. Let's get started. Let's
No,
get
no,
started.
no.
So,
Saying we'll have to sort it out afterward. Who had the higher GPA? No, just kidding. So last thing I wanted to say, Alex, just more for like the chat than for anything, just to cut
mhm,
us a little bit of slack, because I think it'll take us some time to get into the groove. But I really do think that there's a lot of promise to this project. So I really
mhm.
appreciate that you sort of got the ball rolling again, and we'll do our best.
I did have to ping you on multiple platforms, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I think we found the one that that gets me out of the dead.
Exactly, exactly. Okay, so maybe you can set it up and you can kind of explain where you got this position for, and then we could do a timer. We can think quietly,
Yeah.
and then we'll do as you said. I can come up with what I said, and then you could explain it.
So the first position is not remarkable. I got it from the chess.com tactics page. I set the rating range from 2800 to 3000. So it's a slightly more complex chess.com warm up puzzle. And then the next four positions I took from a very underrated book, I think, which is by Dvoretsky and Yusupov. It's called Chess Tests, and it's a compilation of sort of unusual tactical positions that build up originality of thinking, and obviously all of the usual stuff like calculation. But let's start with kind of a warm-up-y type position to get into the groove, and then we'll get to the Dvoretsky positions afterward. Here it's black to play, and like in all the chess.com puzzles, it's black to play and ultimately win decisive amount of material.
Okay. So should we pause? Maybe two, I would like 2 minutes, but we could do 1 minute as well.
2 minutes is great. No, I trust me, I like thinking, so really as long as you need.
Okay. Okay. So I will just think quietly, I guess. And
Sure, I
chat.
can do the same.
Okay, so chat, you guys also have 2 minutes. You could try to think. Do you want me to put a timer? I can put my
That would be
alarm.
awesome. We can do this like a professional Soviet, training team.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll
Okay,
put
so
50 on
chat,
the win. Let's
chat, you guys have 2 minutes. On your marks. Get set. Go.
go.
All right, time's up.
Man, this was a tricky one.
Yeah. I'm glad you're saying that too. That makes me think I didn't find it correctly, but I will explain my thought process, and I'm curious to see how you thought about it.
Okay.
So I'm going to start a little more generally, just because I think it helps set it up, and then I'll go into the specific moves. If you think it's too slow, just give me feedback and we could adjust.
Sure.
Okay, so what I notice here, it is equal material, but white has the C pawn that they are trying to promote. At the same time, black has this pin on the rook on h1, and the white king is in the center of the board, and there are chances to potentially checkmate. In
Hmm.
2 minutes, I only really had the time to explore two different ideas, and they were related to either trying to checkmate the king or trying to stop the pawn, because if we could at least stop that, I have a decent position. So the moves that I came up with that I liked the best were e5 and knight a5.
Hmm.
With e5, I mostly just calculated c7 and bishop takes e5. I thought that after e5, c7, there is a variation where you probably can end up checkmating the white king. And
Hmm.
now I'm trying to look and remember it, and I'm not really seeing it, so maybe it was wrong. So let's go to my next idea. My next idea was knight a5, and the idea was that you're threatening c6 and you're also threatening knight c4, which would win the rook, and then the bishop is protecting the c8 square, so you could sack that later if you need to. Um, and then after knight a5, there were some lines like, what if he plays king e2? Then maybe I go rook b1. And that was about the depth of things that I was looking at. So I will pause here because my chat keeps spamming that you're looking confused at my
No,
explanation.
no, I'm actually like the thing is I can't help myself because as you're talking, I'm like simultaneously calculating the moves that you're saying. So I think our thought process was similar initially. I noticed three things. Of course, the vulnerability of the king, so there might be some mating nets, the pawn on c6, but I was also very attracted to the prospect of winning the bishop on f1.
Mm-hmm.
And to this end, like the move that occurred to me quickly was bishop d3. It doesn't work because after bishop takes d3, rook takes h1, c7.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that the bishop on b2 stops the c1 square. So whatever like sequence we come up with, I figure that you're gonna have to like check c7 to make sure that the pawn isn't slipping through the cracks. I did come up with e5 as well as a way to defend f4, but I did not see a checkmate after c7. And I also thought that after e5, maybe white can play a move like f3 and create a
Mm-hmm.
Luft square for the king.
Yeah, I actually thought of f3 as well, which is why I stopped looking at e5. But it was initially what I considered.
Yeah, so then I sort of transitioned back to the prospect of winning the bishop, and I realized that there's this move knight b3 to d2, which I
Mm-hmm.
thought made sense because you leave the bishop to protect the promotion square. But I thought knight d2 white has king e2, and I think this just refutes the line immediately
Yeah, I looked at
because
this too, but to be honest, I saw chat spamming knight d2, so I looked at it, and then after king e2, I also couldn't see a continuation.
you saw chat spamming it, so you knew it wasn't the move.
Yeah, kind of.
So
Sorry,
then I
chat.
thought maybe we can start. That was unnecessary, like catching strays. Then I thought maybe rook e1 check is a better way to start because wherever the king goes, then I thought knight d2 would be guaranteed to pick up the bishop. But I'll tell you what stumped me. So king f3, knight d2 is just like a check, and that's bad. I thought white has to play king f4.
Mm-hmm.
Then I thought after knight d2, there was one tactic that I just could not for the life of me find a response to. I thought white has this crazy move bishop d3. And by the way, I'm making moves on the board. Like we can also do this in our head. I don't know like how we'll end up deciding to
I,
do it.
I think making moves on the board is the best
Okay, agreed, agreed.
for the content. Yeah.
Mm. And so here I thought after rook takes h1, bishop takes f5, I think I probably spent like 45 seconds on this position and couldn't find anything convincing because gf c7 and white wins. I thought
Mm-hmm.
maybe knight to c4 to try to stop the pawn. But again, white plays c7 and then white promotes and white has two bishops for the rook. So that's kind of where I was stuck after bishop d3.
Interesting. Um, okay. It's actually helpful to know that you also had trouble solving it until the end in 2 minutes.
Yes,
But you were able
100%.
to get a lot more in depth, that's for sure. You
And
were able to just discount certain moves.
there's something interesting I noticed, which is that I think you spent more energy trying to design a mating net. I will say that I spent maybe like 20 seconds thinking
Mm-hmm.
about it, but I couldn't find even a hypothetical mating net. And to me, that's a huge deal breaker. Like, if I'm attracted to the possibility of mate, I'll ask myself, okay, is there some sort of hypothetical target mating position? And even if you get like three moves, it's actually like almost impossible to set up a mating position. Like
I
unless
like
I'm
that.
missing
So
something.
that's actually a tip I usually give to my students when they're trying to come up with a plan. It's like, okay,
Hmm.
if you can't come up with a plan in this position, try making 3 moves in a row, and that should
Yes.
help guide to see if something like that would make sense. And if you can't do that with checkmate, then that's a quick way to discount it. I like that.
I think it's an underrated tool when you're trying to figure out, is there actually a mating net?
Right.
So I'm pretty confident that Rookie 1 is the first move. This just seems like it moves in the right direction. So
Oh, what
maybe we
about
can take
e5 here?
e5 check. So if bishop e5, you have rook e4.
Mm-hmm.
So let's make the move on the board. King f3, still knight d2. So I guess white probably has to go king g3. I think we're getting somewhere there. Oh, but now there's knight d2. Isn't there?
Um, and then after bishop d3, which was the initial problem.
Another like quick tip, and not to pretend like I have all the secrets to solving positions,
Danya,
but
we know you have all the secrets, so just tell us.
so I think a lot of players they test out an option and it doesn't work, and they forget to test it in a position that features a outwardly imperceptible difference, but you have to manually retest like the same lines because some difference that you think might be unimportant might actually be integral to your defensive capabilities, as it is here. Like you have to manually look at that position again. And here, of course, I'm seeing that black has a defense after c7.
Oh yeah, of course. Well, now I see it too because you put it on the board. So this is going to be my contribution. If you play c7, you have knight e4 check, the king's got to move somewhere, and then you play knight d6. So the whole
Yeah.
difference is because the king was back on g3, you get this extra move. And I guess what you'd need to check then is, was there any other option for where the king could go in this position that would escape the knight? But the only option is g5 and g3, so you'd get that check in both of the options.
Also, your contribution was the main move of this solution, if it is the solution, which is e5. So don't sell yourself short.
If it is, yes.
If it is. And for this one, we'll have to check it with the engine. For the other positions, I have the solution in the book, but we can also use the engine. I think.
But you haven't seen the other ones,
No,
right?
no.
Okay.
I literally just found them today, and I checked that that they were in the book and everything, but I had never seen those positions before.
Okay, good, good, good.
So I think that's probably the solution. The one other thing I'd point out here is that another bonus of playing e5 is that bishop c3, you don't have to bog yourself down with rook takes f1. You can actually just pick up the dark squared bishop with knight e4.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty sure that that might be the sequence. Shall we check our first solution of the series and probably end up being wrong?
Yeah, let's check it. But before we do, I just kind
Uh-huh.
of want to summarize the way you thought about it. Were you just looking at moves really quickly? So first you checked to see if there was any kind of mating net, and then you
Mm-hmm.
just started looking at ideas related to the pin, and then you were just coming up with multiple moves for it, right?
Yeah, like the first category
Mm-hmm.
are immediate moves, moves that first order threats. Can you attack the bishop? So that
Mm-hmm.
knight d2, bishop d3 belong to the category, but both moves are easy to refute.
Mm-hmm.
Then, like second category moves are ideas that involve a setup move or an introductory move that wards off the potential defenses. And rook e1 check's the only, like rook b1 occurred to me also, but I didn't see the point of that. I'm like, what does it do?
Mm-hmm.
What is moving the dark squared bishop actually? How does that help? It actually hurts because we don't have knight d2. And by process of elimination, this is like the only other move that you could throw in.
Got it. Got it. Okay, that makes sense. I like the way you thought of that. Now let's check the solution.
Oh God, this is gonna be embarrassing.
Oh
My
God, please let
excuse
it be
in
right.
advance is that I've had a long day. Okay, let's see. Rook e1 check
Rookie
is
one.
correct, but it appears
Uh-oh.
e5 is incorrect. Knight d2 immediately is the move. Oh, bishop d3 and now e5 check. Huh. So this is the move. Let's see what happens if we try the other move order.
Yeah.
If we try the other move order, e5 check,
So
there
what did we
is...
miss here?
Black is better here, so this is not... We didn't totally flame out. King g5, knight d2. Oh my God. Okay, there's a crazy computer move, and it's the only move to save the game. And that move, and to me, this move is unfindable. It's G4.
Damn.
It's G4. So what is the point of this move? There's 2 points. White is preparing bishop G2 to protect the rook and counterattacking black's bishop. And if bishop E4, then suddenly white can double back and go C7 again because we've lost contact with the promotion square.
Right, and then let's say that we move the bishop to C8 because you have to move your bishop away here. I
But
guess
then
you
bishop
could also
G2.
check first. Yeah, yeah. Then you just get out of it.
Black is better after knight E4 check. It's around +1. But by changing the move order, we avoid this option.
That's
So
crazy.
that is
That's so
actually,
hard to
I
find.
was not expecting this to be this hard. The range was like 2,800 to 3,000, and I'll say that rating range I usually solve about like 5 out of 6 correct. So this was pretty wild. I'm just curious, like, why didn't I consider E5 check? I guess it was just because, at least for me, the rook is hanging, so rook takes H1 seems completely forced. But it's not.
Also, it's crazy that rook takes h1 is still winning for black because you did look at that line as well, right?
Yeah, apparently it is still winning for black after bishop takes f5, and you can play e5 even then. But what is the actual point of e5? It's not just to get the king onto one of these squares so that the knight can come back. After bishop takes e5, the point is that here you can stop the pawn from behind with the rook.
And what happens if white doesn't take the bishop here? I guess what are the other options? Well,
I think only
if you don't take
c7.
the bishop, then you're still protecting c8.
Yeah, so for example, if white plays c7, I think you can even just go rook c1 and ignore the tension.
Right.
And white just has no way to reinforce that square. I guess bishop a6, but white's not threatening anything because black has 2 defenders on this. And black is going to consolidate here somehow with maybe f6.
Interesting. So I guess the reason why you felt like you overlooked it is because rook takes h1 was much more of a natural move earlier
Yeah,
on instead of e5.
I just didn't put the ideas together. I also think this is a tactical weakness of mine. This is not the first time I've noticed this. I tend to miss intermediate moves in general, especially in situations where there's like a compelling reason to not look for one. Like rook takes h1 just seems
Free
completely
piece.
forced. But I knew that the check was an idea in an earlier position. So I guess the idea is to combine combine ideas and not to forget to check for the same move in like several different types of positions. But I would argue, Alex, that e5 in the position we wanted to play it would probably win most games. This g4 defense is pretty crazy.
Yeah, do we get partial credit?
I think we should give ourselves partial credit. We also found the first move.
We did. Well, you did, but we'll take it. And
Well,
I
you found
found
the
one
main
of the
idea.
important moves. I'll take it. Okay, do you want to pause here and see if chat has any questions?
Yeah, for
I think
sure.
since we're like learning on this format, it could be good.
Oh
So
yeah, and this
chat.
is like a trial
Yeah,
session, right?
exactly.
We'll optimize this. We'll figure this out. So give us some time.
All right, this is your moment, chat, where we are paying attention to you guys. So if you have a question, put it in there. Okay, it's a lot of troll questions so far.
Yeah, I have a couple from my chat, but we can defer to your chat first. I have some troll questions too.
Uh-huh.
Okay, the question should be on theme, folks, like
Yes,
about
yes.
this position.
I'm gonna try to see something that I think would actually help people. If not, I'm gonna let's see.
Would you have found it g4 in a classical game with white? I think with 30 minutes in that position, probably. Although not even a given. It's a hard move.
Um okay, I think some of these are very general questions and they're not specific.
I'm getting why not rook e4 check and move 2.
Okay, let's look at that.
I think the reason is king to g3. I don't understand what this check does.
I think this also, you could use what you said earlier. So like if the chatter is actually trying to apply what you listened to, what 3 moves could you do here? Let's say the king goes to g3, that would help you checkmate. So you have 2 more free moves. I don't see any way to checkmate because h5, h4, he has the escape square, so that's not fast enough.
I guess there's knight d2 though.
Yeah, but that would be 4. I guess that'd be multiple moves. It
Oh
feels
yeah,
very far away.
it feels very slow. And remember that when you're
Yeah.
trying to mate the king in this type of endgame, like white can play a single move like f3 and get
Yep.
a luft square. So you're just like not. And rook g4 check maybe was attracting people, but the king is dodging all of the checks. Like I don't see where this is going. Like knight c4, bishop takes c4, rook defends the bishop. I don't think this is going in a promising direction for black.
Yeah, agreed.
So
Okay. All right. I think we're good with this because a lot of them are specific first moves, which I think if anyone has specific first moves, you could honestly try copying this position and testing it out. Because I think that's one thing you really need to do for practice is actually put them on your board and try it yourself.
And I think like engaging with the position and understanding the intuition behind wrong moves is really important. Like if you come up with a move and you feel very strongly about it and it's wrong, you can trust us that it's wrong. The key is to figure out what attracted you about this move because that is
So that
often
you fix your
indicative.
intuition.
Yeah, that's often indicative of things that you tend to prioritize wrongly or things that you tend to assume or take for granted or not prioritize enough that might stand in the way of like the right solution.
Okay. I think that's a good point. All right, should we try the next one?
Let's try the next one. Okay, so I'm actually going to choose this one. Not a lot of pieces on the board, so hopefully this one will be findable. We need some confidence. Okay, I'm going to add game. Add game, add game. Okay. And we're going to flip the board. It's black to play here as well. A lot of black to moves today, no particular reason why. And we don't have the evaluation, so we don't know if we're trying to win or draw, which makes it harder, but also makes it more fun.
Oh, for sure.
So yeah, so much fun.
You sound like my chess coach.
Let's have some fun. Yeah, which
It's
means
more
it's
work.
fun.
You're gonna love it.
It's fun time. Yeah, black to play.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna start the timer.
All right.
Everybody in chat, put on your thinking focus and 1, 2, 3, go.
I think I got it.
I mean, sorry, good job.
Want a medal? Now let me think.
Yeah, congrats.
Asshole.
All right, time is up.
Okay.
All
Enlighten
right.
me.
So I'm going to start once again generally. What do you notice about this position? We are down a bishop, but what we do have going for us is that this pawn is close to promoting, and our rook and queen are cornering the white king. Also, I don't see any instant checkmates for white, even though our king is out in the open. So that's a decent start. Are we supposed to be winning this? Are we supposed to be drawing it? I would be happy with a draw, being down this much material. But of course, it's an aggressive position, so I was trying to look at tactics. The move that I liked the most was queen e3. I tried to look at rook takes g2, but I didn't see anything after you just give a queen for free. I tried to look if there was any difference between queen e3, queen e5, putting pressure on the bishop. Queen e3 seemed to be a little bit better because it was closer to the king. I tried to see if I play a move like queen e3, are there any threats I need to be worried about? But all of the checks on b7 or a7 seems like I could just... sorry, a7 is a free queen. b7 for white, I could just run away to h6, so that seems okay. But my issue with queen e3 is after bishop d1, I couldn't really see a continuation. queen e1 looks good if rook takes and you trade off. Actually, I'll play it on the board so it's easier to see. I was looking at queen e3, bishop d1, queen e1. Obviously, white is not going to take the queen because then you are better off, but white can just kind of sit on this position. And I didn't know how to progress from here. So I just kept running through multiple lines. This is the one I liked the best, but I just didn't have enough time to see it all the way through.
Yeah, and we can totally like in the future adjust thinking time and do more time. Like I wouldn't mind that at all. So I started with some of the same considerations, which is that black is down a piece. Within a couple of moments, I determined for myself that probably black is trying to draw. Just because, like, in order to win this, you're going to have to either somehow checkmate on g2, and it seemed pretty clear that there's no way to do that. I mean, d1, bishop takes d1. There's no way to distract the rook. My next candidate move was also queen e3, and I got stumped after bishop d1 similarly. Because, again, I think thinking in, like, hypothetical ideal scenarios is really good here. Like, if everything goes right for black, how would we win? And I didn't even see an idealized version of this. Like if white just sits, oh, and white's not going to sit. White's going to go like queen d6 and stuff.
Yeah.
And this just seemed too muddy for me. And it seemed pretty certain that white was going to somehow consolidate.
Yep.
Like queen d3, etc., like you were saying. So then I was like, okay, what am I missing? Are there any ideas that I might be closing myself off to? And that's kind of when I spotted what I think is the correct move. I'm not going to say anything for sure. I look at black's rook, queen, and pawn, and I notice that all of them can be given away basically on demand. So I came up with like a stalemate idea. And a stalemate construction would be the black king on h6, the white rook on g2, and the white bishop controlling the king's only escape square down the h file.
Wow.
So that's when I came up
God,
with
did you play queen g3?
a move. Did I play what?
Queen g3?
Well, queen's already on g3.
No. I see the bishop on d1.
Oh, you mean in this position?
Yeah.
No, but I thought in the initial position.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
In the initial position, at first I thought about rook takes g2, rook takes g2, d1 queen, bishop d1, and king h6. And this is stalemate. But I mean, obviously, white doesn't have to take the queen.
Yeah.
So I was thinking like, okay, queen f1, and I actually didn't see a way to force stalemate here.
Right, because if you take the rook, you take back with the king, and you don't have to take with the queen. Makes sense.
Right, but queen h3, rook h2, I think is important. I thought it was this at first, because king g1, queen h1 is a stalemate. But here there's the funny rook h2, and it's actually a pin against the king.
Yeah, damn. And you cannot take.
But then I thought, what if you change the move order? You don't have to give away your pieces immediately. After king h6,
king h6, yeah.
Exactly. White has no checks. And I wasn't totally sure, but I didn't see a way for white to prevent. There are some like crazy lines here. I think queen d3 might be the most testing response. And here there's a ridiculous idea. I think you can still promote.
Okay.
So I'll let you find the move after queen takes d1 or the sequence. What's the most clinical way to force stalemate?
It looks, well, for a second. Oh, okay. Queen takes h3.
Nice.
G takes, and then rook h2. And I'll play it on the board as well for chat. So you take here, it's forced. You have another forced check, king takes, and now black has no moves.
Exactly. Stalemate.
Oh, that's sneaky.
But then I got discouraged by queen takes g3, and even though the king is stalemated, it takes a second to actually figure out the way to give away your pieces. Do you see? I think this is the only way.
Let me think. Okay, because queen takes g2 looks like the easiest, but after king takes g2, you play rook f1, and then the bishop can take. Right. But you could also take on g2.
Nice. And if white doesn't take?
Yeah, so queen takes, king has to take. If you take on g2 and the white king moves away, then you just take the queen.
Which is, I think, easy to forget about if you're sort of missing the forest for the trees. Yeah, here black simply wins.
Wolver 2810 said, "Why do these solutions always make you feel so stupid?" Hey,
Well,
this is hard. I didn't in 2 minutes get to see the stalemate idea yet, but I had already started seeing that there was no other solution. So I think
mhm.
with more time, maybe I could have found it. But it's cool how quick you realize that was the only way.
I mean, it's largely an intuitive judgment because there's a bunch of
Hmm.
candidate moves here that I didn't check that could potentially be the solution. For instance,
Hmm.
I don't know, like moving the rook back and playing queen e1 is an option, right? And going
Hmm.
queen e5, but all of those moves belong to the same category, and white always responds with bishop d1. So a lot of it, I
Right.
think, is kind of cutting corners intuitively, but that's a lot of what puzzle solving is. Like, you can't really model the situation you get over the board. You do have to kind of cut corners and look for the flashy solutions sometimes. But we can check. I'm
Do
not
you think
100%
that
sure.
ever? That's one of the things that has a huge difference between puzzles and real games, because
Hmm.
obviously in puzzles you know you're trying to solve something. Do you think there's a way that you could study puzzles that's more applicable to actual chess positions?
So there's a few things. I think these puzzles are a little bit more realistic because you don't know the evaluation, which is a big pet
Hmm.
peeve. Like if I give a puzzle to a student, they'll often be like, "Okay, are you trying to win or draw?" And you should want positions where you don't know if you're trying to win or draw because you don't know during a real
Yeah.
game what you want. But some of the more complicated Dvoretsky puzzles are so open-ended that you just like don't know. Even if you're trying to get an advantage, you don't know if it's a slight advantage or like a winning advantage. So
Hmm.
for our next session, I have these positions back home in my desktop. I didn't bring them with me. I have some positions from a chess book on evaluation, which are more open-ended. It's not that there are tactics in every one of them. It's like there is a solution, there's a best move, but you have to, part of the fun is to evaluate the position and then figure out whether the best move is positional or tactical. So those types of puzzles are hard to come by, but they do exist.
On this episode of Having Fun with Danya, Danya gives you puzzles and you don't know who wins.
Exactly. Someone in chat gave the name of a book that I totally think we should solve from, called it's called Find the Best Move, or no, it's called it's this 70s book by these two GMs. In Russian, it's called Together with the Grandmasters. I have it. So we could definitely solve some from that book. And they give you a multiple choice in each puzzle, which is super open ended. Like it's not, and there are no like flashy tactical solutions. It's all very practical.
Okay. No, I mean, I love how many books you have. I'm just gonna run to the bathroom real quick, but if you want to set
Same.
up the next one, we could
I'll
do
set
that.
up the next one and I'll do the same. So when you,
Okay.
I will also run to the bathroom afterward.
All right. Okay,
Thank you,
so
Julie,
this
for the
one
prime.
is white to move, and we don't know what's happening.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna set the alarm,
All
and then
right.
I will count us down.
Here we
I
go.
want to get further this time. Okay.
I think you shall.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
All right.
Oh my god, it's been 2 minutes and 20 seconds.
That's okay. I think
Okay.
I have it, but
I do
you
not
know,
have it, but I have it set up.
okay,
Okay, so
that's
you
promising.
look at this position, and it's exciting at first because white is up an entire rook. You're feeling good. You also have this pass pawn on h6. But then the closer you look, white is in serious trouble. Black is threatening, rook takes b2, and there's a lot of problems here. You can't take the bishop on e5 because queen takes a2 is going to checkmate. You also can't play d4, which looks very promising, because of queen e2, and
Very
I
nice.
couldn't figure out anything after that. So I was, seeing all of the problems with the position. I was trying to look for defensive moves, but if it was black's turn to move, rook takes b2, king c1, queen c6 is checkmate. So I started looking, does something like queen d7 work? Is there any sack queen takes c7. Is there anything after d4? Is there anything with rook d2 and changing the order with the queen going on e2? So I kept looking at all of these, but I didn't see any solution yet. So that's where I got in these 2 minutes and 25.
I think you're extremely close. Again, assuming that my move is correct. I think we should, first of all, a lot of people in the chat were flipping out over this bishop at first. So let's just show that this is checkmate in 2 moves.
Right.
Naroditsky problems aren't usually that easy. So
Cyber Panda 1 goes, I was freaking out.
we basically went down exactly the same thought process. I thought about d4. I thought about queen d7. Just seems like it allows too many mating options. In fact, queen d7, I think there's a really pretty mate with rook c2 and queen a2, queen b2.
Here, I'll play it out.
Yeah,
we should always play these out.
We should play it out.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this is the beautiful mate.
So then I came up with an idea that briefly really excited me, but upon closer inspection, it's just trash, which is queen to g7.
Oh, I looked at this as well.
But it doesn't, it's hilarious because it doesn't stop the actual mate threat.
Yep. You got rook
just rook takes b2.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that doesn't do anything.
Wait, I'm going to play it on the board. Yeah, rook takes b2.
Yeah, definitely.
If king a1, you take on a2. If king c1, you go to c6. So sadly, it doesn't work. But you can explain why it excited you.
It excited me because the idea of deflecting the bishop is very promising. If you get this position, I think black's attack fizzles out, and white might even be better with the pawn tying down the rook. That I would love to get. I even thought about the double Botez gambit with queen takes c7 check, which is a serious candidate move, by the way.
I looked at this too.
What did you conclude?
I concluded it didn't work. And why did I conclude that? I think it was just because of king takes. But
then I thought bishop takes c5 and I go back to b2.
Oh, interesting.
I thought bishop takes c7 and then back to e5 is hard to deal with.
Okay. Yeah,
and you've just got the same position but down a queen. So we haven't really made progress.
Yeah, that's fair.
So that didn't work. At this point, I start opening myself up to bizarre options. And I think you actually named the move that I came up with. d4, queen e2.
What? I'm so okay, so there was something after. Okay.
Not after, but I think there is a way to take the sting out of queen e2 using the fact that white is up a rook initially, which always opens me up to the possibility of giving a large chunk of the material back to take the sting out of the main series of threats. So what idea comes to mind based on that?
Okay, so it's gonna have to come before d4. I mean, I guess it could come after too, but I don't see any way to stop it.
I think it's mate.
D4, queen e2.
I think it's mate after queen e2. If the queen leads, it's mate.
Yeah. Well, I did think about rook d2.
Yeah, I think that's it.
I mentioned this earlier, but I didn't see how rook takes d4, queen e2 wasn't winning.
I thought bishop a1 there, and I didn't see a direct check. Or bishop c1, sorry. Bishop c1 might actually be winning for white.
Okay, so yeah, I did not see the bishop move after. I basically stopped my analysis after queen e2, and I thought, okay, I think black is better.
Yeah, I felt like when the rook is leading, it's a lot less dangerous. Another thing, which is, again, this question of hypothetical mating patterns, right? Yeah. When I looked at queen e2, I saw bishop c1, and I asked myself, well, even if you give black a couple moves, there's actually no way to set up the mate when the rook is in front of the queen. Because rook takes a2, what can white do here?
I mean, white just takes the bishop.
Yeah, and all of the mating squares are protected. I did think like rook a5, but clearly you can go bishop b2 and black is fizzling. The attack is fizzling out.
Huh. So, I don't know why I stopped. I think my intuition was wrong here. I just looked at it and I was like, oh wait, no, black is gonna win here, but I didn't go deep enough to it, so I just cut it off short. I think that was one of the mistakes I made.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think process of elimination is super powerful here because at some point you're like, well, there's no other way to defend against mate. So I think it's important to identify ideas that could be promising under a different set of circumstances. Like d4, it almost works if only you can somehow damage the efficacy of black's second rank mating mechanism. I guess I could check it, Let's see if rook d2 is the move. It is. Only move.
It is. Wow. We got one
Yay!
right. Heck
Rook
yeah.
takes d2, d4, and it's +1. That's the evaluation. Black is supposed to go rook g2, actually, to set up this threat, and
Put
now
the
rook
queen
to
in.
c1.
Oh, wow. Because then you could move your queen back to c2.
Exactly. And white is winning because of the
These
h
are
pawn.
some tricky puzzles.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
they're really pretty.
I think they're instructive, and definitely when we do our more open-ended session, it'll be less about like, oh, it's the right solution, wrong solution. Maybe there will be more like qualitative learning. I just
Yeah.
figured this is a good way to get us into sort of into the groove of it.
No,
So rook d2, only
this is
move.
very fun. Okay, rook d2. And beautiful. So then I guess after queen e2, let's just check that it was bishop c1.
Yeah, bishop
Oh, it's
c1.
interesting that bishop c1 is the only move because bishop a1 doesn't work.
No,
Although
bishop a1.
it is intuitive. Bishop c1 is more intuitive though. So that's not
Plus,
surprising.
you just hit the rook. And also,
Exactly.
I thought bishop a1, there's even rook d1 check with a perpetual check.
Mhm.
And, you know, it's like once you see bishop c1, you don't even need to go deeper into bishop a1.
Yeah, exactly. So bishop c1, and the one line that was sort of tricky that we looked at was rook takes a2. And this is actually the exact line that you looked at. And then rook a6, and you just play bishop b2. Okay, well, you're right.
Yeah.
Your line was correct.
Yeah, bishop b2 and white is winning. Nice.
Okay.
All right.
Nice. So you know what? I don't feel too bad, but the interesting thing is that even if I had more time, I had just wrote off rook d2 so quickly that it would have taken me a while to come back. I think that's the problem when you're solving tactics and you've just confidently said that a move doesn't work, but you don't check it all the way through. You're less likely to come back and double check it.
And you bring up a really interesting point. I think I do this a ton. I actually go back through the moves I've refuted like probably too many times. Like if a move is close, like it doesn't work, but the margin is narrow, and I feel like, wait, I need to double and triple check this. Sometimes that helps me find intermediate moves or moves like rook d2, which, you know, are good moves to, you know, to throw in before making the move that you ruled out. So that kind of like constant search, sometimes it doesn't work the first or second time, but when you do the third pass through, suddenly it kind of occurs to you.
And also, I love that chat is asking for homework. One time we should just have like 3
Aw.
positions that we're going to cover in the next video and give people homework.
I think that would be great. Yeah, and we probably we'll have like a position left over today that we can do for homework as well.
So don't worry, chat. You can sit with it and see if you find it.
Absolutely.
The whole 3 people who are doing the homework are going to get excited.
Yeah, like the 2 people who have like a notebook and they're, you know, writing down. No, it's great. I love that chat is super involved. Honestly, it's, you know, we could have done this off stream, Alex, but I think we decided that it would be more fun and more engaging, and like less. We'd be less prone to perfectionism if we did it on stream.
I know we probably would have re-recorded this like 3 times by now, but I also like chat's feedback and seeing when people get confused.
Oh yeah, for sure. When I come back to Charlotte, I'll do a little stream where I show people my like bad takes on YouTube videos and all the expletive that I start throwing in. Like,
wait,
welcome everybody to the
YouTube videos.
No, like my attempts at recording that resulted in like 10 seconds followed by a string of cuss words.
Oh yeah, no, I've recorded the same intro like 15 times, gotten upset, and stopped filming for the day.
No, I'll do the whole table slam. Like, welcome everybody. Or what I'll do is I'll record 2 minutes, realize that I haven't even gotten past explaining the format of the video, and just start slamming the table and being like, yeah.
That should be your intro. It should just be you angry.
Actually, that might be worked into some sort of an intro. That would be fun.
I feel like it could be a good bit. But okay, we only have 15 minutes left, so let's do another one.
Okay, let's do another one.
So that chat has one more chance to get it right.
Black to play.
Okay, black to play. I'm about to start the timer. Ready, go.
Go.
Okay, it's been almost 3 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, so first generalizations. We're down a pawn. There might be some opportunities for back rank checkmate for white. There's all these ideas on h2, either taking or queen e5. Our knight is under attack. We need to be careful about trading because we're down a pawn, and if we trade pieces, that's going to make it more likely for white to win. So then I started going through a lot of move options. I looked at queen e5. I looked at bishop takes h2. I looked at queen h5. I think I even looked at knight e5. And initially, I thought bishop takes h2 was interesting, but then I looked if king takes h2, queen e5, and even if the king goes back, if I play queen takes, actually, I should just play it out. We said we are going to
That's
play
great
defense,
calculation. I think that's an important line.
This is the line that I realized black is still worse, because if you just trade off everything, there's bishop e3. There's bishop e3 here, and I didn't see how we were going to save this pawn. And I thought this would be a losing endgame. And I even thought, okay, what about knight takes? Well, there's still bishop e3 here. And I thought, once again, we're just going to end up losing a pawn here. It's not super exciting.
Right.
So that didn't work. The one that I was most looking at was queen e5, which I thought that white's best response was knight f3.
Wait, but what about knight takes? What if knight takes c6? Sorry to cut you off. I thought knight takes c6.
I didn't even see knight takes c6 yet.
Okay.
Because I had just come back to this one. But this looks honestly like the move I should have considered first.
But even knight f3 and like, white's up a pawn. So it doesn't feel like black achieves all that much.
Yeah, no, I mean, exactly. And you can't, that's why I had already ruled it out, because you take and then queen takes. So I didn't think queen e5 was good, but I even missed that you could just take the bishop. I had already ruled it out. And then again, I was starting to run queen h5. I realized you could just move it away. Actually, I don't remember what I had found for queen h5, but I thought even knight f3 was fine. So
exactly what I was thinking too. Same.
And then now that I had tried all of these forcing moves and I was starting to run out of time, there was also knight takes d4 and things like bishop e5. I don't remember why I didn't like that. And then I was looking just at knight e5 because I couldn't really come up with ideas, and at least it was attacking a4. But this is basically where I got to before the time was up, which I think I just need more time because these are pretty hard for me.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that we can take away. We can definitely, I think, do. We probably shouldn't be shy about taking, like 5 minutes or so, just because of the format. And this will be a more realistic look into how, good players train. I think there's one other aspect of the position, assuming my move is correct. I changed my frame of reference completely here because I started with the same thoughts as you. Queen e5, queen h5. I was very tempted by because there's a pretty line here, which is check here, and then bishop takes h2 wins the queen. So I was attracted to this, but then I was like, wait a second, knight f3, and it's a complete dead end. But then I asked myself, well, what else could I be missing about this position? I think a lot of times when we miss tactics, it's because in the first couple of seconds, we convince ourselves that the tactic or the move has to exploit certain features of the position. Here, I think it's the H pawn and the back rank. But I also noticed that there was some piece alignment going on the D file, and the queen on D3 is undefended. The knight on D4 is poorly defended. So the moment I paid attention to that set of factors, I thought that I found the set of two candidate moves which accomplished the same thing, and from which I then chose one move in particular. So I'll let you ponder that for a second. Okay, I think it's yeah.
I'm now thinking about things like queen d7 or queen d8 because they threaten the bishop takes h2 idea, so you can't actually take here. So well,
they threaten
actually look interesting.
They threaten something a lot more scary than bishop takes h2. Like if you play queen d7, for instance, and white plays h3, what's the sort of the straightforward winning move?
I mean, you could just take the knight.
And if white plays bishop e3 instead?
And this, I think, I'm going to just show chat really quick.
For sure.
This is how you win a queen. And if there's bishop e3 instead...
previous move.
Previous move, yeah, because this one's... Oh, here, instead of h3.
Instead of
Got
h3.
it. If you play this instead, I mean, let's see. I guess you could just play bishop c5.
Yes, and you win a piece.
You just win a piece.
So
Yeah, I don't see anything better.
so then it was a matter of comparing queen d8 and queen d7, and I think this is a very underrated
Mm-hmm.
tool in chess, the method of comparison, where you like go in as much detail as possible and make as many observations about what separates these two moves, and sometimes that leads you directly to the correct move. So my choice was one of them. I'm curious like where your intuition goes between queen d7, queen d8. I think one of those moves allows white to weasel out of the construction.
Well, it's funny because if it was a blitz game, I would almost play queen d7 instinctively just because,
Uh-huh.
it doesn't leave a knight hanging. It seems a lot safer. Um, let's see. Is there any difference? So let's say I play queen d8. The knight still can't take because there's
Yeah.
check. So that doesn't work. What other options can white defend here? Let's say bishop d3, and then I play the same move, bishop c5.
Mm-hmm.
And what does this change? Um,
You can also come at it from the other end, which is that like if you take the moves in a vacuum, what
mhm.
is the physical difference in queen placement? What can you say about how the d7 square differs from the d8 square?
Well, the d8 square can be attacked by the white knight.
Okay,
Um, the d8 square can also be attacked by the bishop because it's a dark square. Um,
hypothetically, yes. But there's also the question of
hypothetically.
defended versus undefended, right? The d7 square is undefended, the d8 square is defended by the knight.
Right. That's true.
So when you put the queen on an undefended square, inherently it's more vulnerable. So after
Interesting.
queen d7, can you spot a defensive resource for white? In fact, I think there are probably several ways to defend here using the undefended nature of the queen on d7.
Okay. Do I just get out of check? Can I play something like king h1?
Then I'll go bishop c5 though.
That's true. Okay, so I can't let that happen. Um,
Look more closely at the undefended queen on d7.
okay. Oh, can I just play queen f5?
Exactly. I think you can.
Yeah.
Queen b5, I
Oh,
think, is also possible.
okay, that makes sense. I didn't think about those. But that does make it's obvious once you see it.
Yeah, for sure. And that's with a lot of tactics. Now, queen d8, the reason it's correct has actually nothing to do with the fact that this is defended. It's more that white doesn't have an equivalent move with his queen. So
And
you
the
get out
way
of
I
the
usually
radius.
find these is if I was being thorough about queen d7 and trying to find ways that white could defend, as soon as you see queen f5, you're like, oh, easy, I'll just go queen d8. And
Right.
that's usually how I'm able to differentiate between two moves. It's when I'm being thorough in the calculations.
Yeah, thorough and like, I don't know, there's just a certain intuition. And there's certain assumptions I think that you can make which will block you from finding queen f5, such as,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I can never abandon the knight. I almost never tell
Yeah.
that to myself, like, oh, this type of move is never possible. Because it doesn't cost anything to manually check it. Like I will manually check knight takes c6 one more time and
Yeah.
manually check bishop e3. It takes a lot less to check these simple lines than it seems, and often
Mm-hmm.
it allows you to discover hidden flaws in your calculation. It's like what we saw in the first exercise, right? Where we throw in the move e5 check, and then
Yep.
we have to recalculate the line where we take the rook because then we have that knight maneuver to stop the pawn.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what I would say. Yeah, queen d8, I'm pretty sure is the solution. I'm checking. Yeah, queen
Yay,
d8.
it's queen d8.
Thunderous applause. This is the best move. And now just GH. And black is up
Very
a
cute.
piece.
Very cute. So I guess what I could have done better here is It actually came down to the generalizations where all I was thinking about was down a pawn, you don't want to trade, H2, back rank, but I actually didn't spot this. So I think I
Mm-hmm.
moved a little too quickly from spotting all the general things before actually going into concrete lines.
Mm.
Um,
Interesting. Would you
Also,
did the
somebody keeps asking why bishop b4 doesn't work, but we'll go back there.
bishop before immediately?
I think after queen d8, but that's a
Oh,
confusing question.
for white?
Yeah, I don't know when they meant bishop b4. Oh, I think maybe they meant bishop b4 here.
Uh-huh. I guess there's
That
no threat because
right.
even, the funny thing is, even if
You're
it was
just
black to
trading.
move, this is kind of hilarious, but even if white makes a pass move,
Yeah,
like this is
you're just
still
trading.
fine for white.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
queen d2, knight
actually,
c4, and there's mate, but I think white can survive with knight c6.
yep.
It's queen e1, queen f1.
Almost there. Almost there.
But also white can play like knight takes c6 here.
Yeah. But okay, sorry. Go back to what you were saying.
Um, yeah, no, I think I was wondering if this idea resonated with you of like, is it true that you might have gotten fixated on the H pawn and the back rank, whereas the moment I think you notice the alignment of pieces, queen d8 becomes an easier move to like uncover. It's still not guaranteed, but it gives
Yeah,
you a
and
shot at finding it.
I think it's also the time pressure where I know I don't have that much time. So
Mm-hmm.
then I spend it on going deeper on some of the ideas that might work instead of looking for new ones. Whereas if, let's say, we had 10 minutes on this, then I would just check all of them.
Mm-hmm. I think probably 5 minutes would be a good happy medium for some of these
Yeah.
more tactical positions.
Yeah, 5 minutes is more fair.
And I think one idea that I just had is if we do 5 minutes, we can mute ourselves in the Discord call and think
Yep.
aloud to our own chats and then sort of reconvene and
Yeah.
discuss. The downside would be that people would listen to like me and you say the same thing more than
And
once,
they
but I
would
think it would still
and
be
they would
interesting.
also not try to solve it on their own.
Mm, that's true. Although you could mute the stream, I guess, if you're a diligent chatter and solve like that. But
But
I
I'm
agree.
down to I'm down to try both. I'm down to try both. Danya, whenever I watch you do this, it's like watching magic. You know the quote with any good technology is indistinguishable from magic. Well, watching a grandmaster in his zone is very similar, and I think even for me, sometimes it's intimidating how
Mm-hmm.
quickly you solve things, and when there's such a huge gap, it almost feels unreachable. Do you have any
Mm-hmm.
advice?
Well, first of all, I appreciate it. That means a lot. I think the key, well, there's two things. First is I think people in chess training overrate, and I'm not just saying this, overrate the concept of like accuracy or I need to get a certain amount of puzzles right, forgetting that the whole point of solving is to improve in OTB chess. There's no puzzle rating. I mean, there is a puzzle rating, but it doesn't matter, right? So ultimately, you would rather get 10 puzzles in a row wrong and learn from all of them than get 10 easy puzzles right, which is why I think solving easy puzzles is almost a useless form of training, because if you can already identify those patterns quickly, you don't need to like train them repeatedly. I think it's much better to do puzzles that are just outside the zone of your comfort level, because that's where like the expansion of thinking happens. But hopefully what this showed, and I'm sure we'll do more of this, and you'll get better and we'll get better at
Mm-hmm.
explaining our thought processes and stuff, but it's that most of these puzzles, if you got them wrong, it happened for a reason. It wasn't just like I saw the same thing and you saw the same thing and then somehow I just randomly came up with the right move. I think
Right.
it's actually a learnable skill in the sense that you can optimize what you think about, how you think about it, and you can really narrow and delve deep into like where exactly did I get stuck, or where exactly was I making a false assumption, or what factors of the position did I not pay enough attention to. And it's going to take you longer to arrive at the same conclusions for a while, but I think it is a skill that can be like actually learned step by step. It's not just about solving as many problems as you can. It's also about breaking down and building up the correct thought process. And hopefully that's one area where this exercise will help.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of the puzzles that are just outside your comfort zone, for people who have a puzzle rating on chess.com, what rating would you recommend that they train? Because like for this one, I think you said it was 2,800 to 3,000.
For Sam, for who? For
So let's
you
say
or?
let's say somebody in chat has a 1,400 puzzle rating or whatever, it has an X puzzle rating. How much would you add on top of that for people to train?
I would like recommend a range that's something like plus 200 to plus 500
Of their puzzle rating?
of their puzzle rating. Like if you're 1,400, you maybe can consider doing 1,700 to 2,200. And maybe I like doing one challenging one per day. So like, let's say you do one 2,900 puzzle per day, and you're gonna get it wrong most of the time if you give yourself a time limit, which you should. But that's like the learning experience. You're like, no, you're probably gonna get it wrong. First of all, it feels great to get it right from time to time. But then you review the solution, and your goal is like pure learning. You're just trying to like improve your thinking process and see if you can figure out what thought process would have led you to the solution, essentially.
And I'm actually curious what my puzzle rating is, because we may have done that. I'm just going to look before we end, because I know you have to run, so I don't want to make you late for your dinner.
You're totally good.
I'm just curious to see if that's what we did today. Leave. Okay. So my puzzle rating is 2,840. So actually these are maybe closer to the range, but 2 minutes for me is just hard.
Yeah. I think for next time we can definitely do like at least 3 minutes, maybe up to 5 minutes of thought.
Okay.
And we can also do a different set of positions, like somewhat more open-ended, where we can really like discuss and analyze for a while, and that'll be the crux of how we arrive at certain conclusions.
That sounds good. Well, Danya, this was really fun. I genuinely enjoyed it, and it inspired me to do more puzzles on my own.
Me too. This was super. It's really always fun for me to to really test myself on whether I can explain my thought process. And also, these are not easy for me, contrary to what people I think. Like I actually am thinking. I'm not simulating. I think I'm actually calculating and stuff. So, and as we could see, like I don't get everything right. But Alex, this was a real pleasure. And hopefully this is the start of a tradition. So I'm super pumped about this.
Sounds good, Danya. Well, I'll let you go. Enjoy LA. Send your family my love. And I'm looking forward to doing more of these.
I will, and I'll send you the raid.
Okay, I appreciate it.
I'll send goodbye to my stream. Have a great rest of your stream, Alex. Thanks again.
You too. Thanks.
Bye. Bye. All right, guys. Well, hope you enjoyed that session. This is, again, just like the start. Hopefully, we'll get into the groove. But that seemed, I had a lot of fun. I feel like this is a promising direction of content. Just the idea of mutual analysis and, us learning each other's thought processes to help grow. So that's the session. All right, folks, I'm going to head out. I'm going to play a little bit of Blitz off stream. Hope you enjoyed the stream, and I'll see everybody soon.
Learning a little bit of chess. Yeah, learning chess is good. Also, reminder for everyone to drink water. Don't get dehydrated or you'll get migraines like I do. So I'm going to just drink my water real quick.